Hello, everybody. Welcome to Justice Served Daily. It has been a while, and I am glad you are all able to join. I've been working a lot in the background. I know it's been a long time to be on live, but please know that there has been a lot going on of stuff that I'm working on and helping. And my biggest thing that I'm happy to help with is I do have families, moms, dads who contact me who children have had been victimized to see Sam and asked for help. And I am thrilled to help do that type of stuff. And with my case with Deborah Fulton, we've had some updates and a tip that I've been working with the Hammond police on. So I know it's been a long time, but I have thought of all of you and missed you all. Hello, Kevin Kraft. How are you? Yes, you're here when I'm here. Can you believe it? And I always catch reruns of Kevin Kraft's building of his wonderful stuff, his pens and everything he makes. Hello, Jinx, my lovely lady. Hello, Cryptex. Hello, Susie. Oh, Susie's watching on the big screen. Susie, with my eyesight, I should be watching on the big screen too. Hello, Luis, Pico. Welcome, everybody. Trying to catch everybody here. Well, I have a lot to cover and a lot of information to go through. So I want to get that stuff started for you. I will remind everybody as you come through, please like the video and hit subscribe. I am a non-monetized channel. I just do my channel to help people and make all the information and stuff available. And I don't do it to make money or anything like that off of it, but I do try to help with cases and educate people. And I do want to let everybody know that I'm probably going to reset up this screen. I don't like this screen like this. Let's see. Do I like that better? Maybe for right now. So I want to, there's going to be a warning that's going to come up next to just as far as the content of what's going to be on here. So if it's something that you cannot handle, I just want to give that warning on that some content may be disturbing for you. So I want to make sure. Hi, Awatha. Hello. So I do want to give you also a heads up of what we're really going to be looking at here and what's going on. So I am going to be covering information into the 2 FBI warnings that we have received in regards to some neo-Nazi ideology groups, online pedophile groups. That does not mean that everybody is white that are in the groups, okay? That's not in there because there is a lot of splinters to the group. There is a lot of webs to the group. Dare I say a lot of tentacles to the group that we're going to be talking about. And these groups all spin off from initially a neo-Nazi group of the Order of Nine Angles that was started in Britain. It is tremendously growing, and it is globally. It is in the United States. It is crossing. There is no boundaries for it, right? Just like any CSAM or anything like that for it. I'm going to be diving into this. It uses extortion and blackmail to scare and to manipulate its victims, girls and boys. It wants to produce CSAM, animal cruelty, self-harm, asking kids to cut themselves or to carve the name of the group or the actual perpetrator's own name into them. It is on online gamings that you would think that you couldn't expect it to be there, but it is, and I'm going to show you some of that. And it is targeting kids, mainly ages 8 to 17 years old. There are many young kids who are on these networks who are doing this, which is, have you ever wondered why? And I know I've brought this up. We see a lot of very young people being arrested for CSAM. And the reason that they're being arrested is because a lot of them are getting exposed to it while they're online gaming and all of this stuff. So there are men, older men in these groups, so they're not just young kids, but that's how they're recruiting. They have been with pedophilia, CSAM, kidnapping, murder, acts of violence against themselves that they'll have kids do or others. They'll get them to target homeless. They'll get them to target seniors. I talked about the carving and the cutting. They then, some ultimate goal is to get their victims to commit suicides while live on streaming. Or they also are tied to school shootings, which I will show that to you. There is a connection in Indiana. We've had Indiana victims for that, which I will go through with you. I will show other predators that have been busted in other countries, like in the UK, Canada, Australia, Ukraine, France, United Kingdom. I will also show you something that could possibly be a weird Delphi murder connection. And I will be going through where to get help, the signs that you should watch. If you have kids or you have some kids in your life, siblings, nieces, nephews, cousins, whomever, that you would want to know the signs and resources of where you can actually get help. So while I'm going through this, I will try my very best to keep an eye over to the side for us being live. However, when I go through all of these, I will let you know that while I'm doing the slides and stuff like that, I really can't see the questions at the same time. So I just want to let you know that, but I will do my very best to watch that here. And let's get going. So let me fix this. All right, so as you can see, the various names, these are not all of the names. There are many other names and stuff from it. There are many symbols. It has a satanic following and ritualistic type of things, sadistic type of things, and we will go. So again, this is a warning. If you are triggered by CSAM or anything like this dealing with children, please be advised. So I had shared this on my channel when the FBI issued 2 warnings that came out as public service announcements talking about the violent groups and the names of what these groups were. And they were really talking about what the online groups were doing and sharing all of these names, but also letting you know that there are many groups who have spinned off from these particular groups. So the first warning that finally came out publicly was September 12th of 2023. Then we received an additional warning on March 6th of 2025. So now, when they finally come forward to release the names of what they're in the groups, they are really trying to warn people. Again, the ages that they're trying to target are ages 8 to 17. But they also target people, especially LGBTQ people, youth, any racial minorities, those who struggle with mental health issues such as depression, suicidal ideation. So they'll target from that. And they threaten that if they don't do what they say, they are going to SWAT or dox the person. And if you don't know what swatting is, you call the cops and say something violent is going on in somebody's home. And then all of a sudden, you've got authorities banging down the door there, or are they out where this victim is and share images. And if they do not cooperate with that, with the request, then it intensifies. And they extort the minors. They want them to produce CSAM and videos. They want animal cruelty, that they get people to harm their own pets. And it includes them cutting and stabbing, fan signing on their skin. And they do the normal that we see from child predators, that they tell these kids, if you don't do this, we're going to share these with your family, your parents, your friends. We're going to post this to the internet. And they control them through fear. And when you're that young and little and you get this happening to you, your biggest fear is getting in trouble and your parents finding out than that. Their end goal is forcing the minors to committing suicide on live stream for their own entertainment or their own sense of fame. So the worse that these people get to get the victims produce makes them rise up in hierarchy within the group itself. So when you look at where they're communicating and how they're communicating, they are steeped in this Satanism, and they lure the children from things that you may believe is harmless. And please, if anything I can say to you, especially if you're a parent, there is no online social media safe for your children. If you're going to ask me what apps are safe, there is none, because they go to platforms that your children are going to be on in order to get them off of those and get them over to where they're going to talk. So they're using stuff like the Discord, Minecraft, Roblox, and extort them and sexually exploit them and then harm themselves. And some victims may commit suicide that they may do it on live platform because that's what they've asked them to do. But some of the victims, and I would say there's a quite high number of boys who feel that there's no way out for them. And not that girls don't do this, because they do, but they end up just committing suicide, period. So, so that's something that you need to be aware of. So when you look at these are just logos of the apps that are quite frequent by the these networks. And Roblox, Minecraft, Call of Duty, they have their own music that they've created in the Sound iCloud. They use Telegram, which is also used by actually a lot of terrorist groups, which I'll let you know that in the United States, in Canada, and in the UK, these are now considered terror level 1 because of things that they're doing and going on. So here's some examples, screenshots of a video of 764 members transitioning from Telegram into a Roblox. So if you look at the skins that they're wearing, one has I love CP, which represents child pornography. And the Roblox reports that they try to ban these accounts related to 764. Well, stuff I'm going to show you isn't going to help you feel better about that. And that's only if they catch it. And accounts branded to the 764 were prevalent on Instagram, where users posted graphic images. And then Meta says it has banned 764 related accounts too, but we all know how that goes. So what they do is they end up in a game, and some of them create their own things on roadblocks, and then kids go to play in those roadblocks. And while they're in there, all of these links of people inside those groups are the ones that are participating and will surround the child's character that comes in for Roblox. So one thing that I do want to point out, and there's going to be some similarities that I know I probably won't even have to point out to anybody who has followed me for Delphi. But you're going to hear some stuff about some things that predators are preferring that happens and what goes on. And this is one. So before the arrest of Richard Allen happened, there is, hi Miranda, sorry, I just saw you. Yes, my email is justiceserveddaily@gmail.com. So it's all one word, justiceserveddaily, no dots or periods, @gmail.com. So before the arrest of Richard Allen in 2022, someone made and released a Roblox Delphi murder reenactment video. Now, I'm not going to show the video. I will let you know that as soon as a bunch of us saw that that happened, it was reported, and it was taken down from that particular site. There is some interesting things in the video itself. Now, what I wanted to have done was to finish tracking some usernames that are in there, because there have been allegedly, I'll use that term. Allegedly, this is created in Canada, and there was a huge bust of some people in Canada who are part of 764 and Roblox. But the problem is that a lot of these have multiple users. I don't mean like a little, like you may have one you use. If you have a channel, you have one you use for a channel, and then maybe another time you go in as somebody else. No, I mean, I'm talking 6, 7, 8 different usernames these predators have inside the gamings, inside everything, because they also pretend that they're a bunch of multiple people rather than it's just one person. And so then also when they get knocked out or dropped off of X or Twitter, for example, or out of Roblox or whatnot, then they go back in with a completely different username. So this video, to say the least, was disturbing. It literally was showing harm done to both Liberty and Abby. And I went through searching a lot for Roblox, and they have a serious predator problem. This right here that you're seeing is a predator who got a little kid, and I don't know if you can tell, but this kid is there, this player is there, is a little kid. And then it pops up what the predator is doing to that other Roblox player. So as you can see, it's saying with penetration and with fluids. So, and then these are people watching while that goes on. Now, one thing that the predators try to target for your kids or whatever being online is that they will get the victims, they'll talk to them normal, like regular playing, all this kind of stuff. And then they get the victims to join in their Roblox game, on their Discords, in different stuff, sending photos and stuff. And for an example, if they're playing Roblox and not Minecraft or Call of Duty or anything like that with them, and how they're first discussing and talking with them, we're just going to talk about the Roblox first, is that when they get them to do something, what they'll do is they offer them, for example, in this game, they'll buy them Robux dollars so they can do stuff with their characters, buy clothing, buy whatever that they want to. And when we talk about, is Roblox doing anything to prevent this from your kids? Let me say this. They're making millions and billions of dollars in those transactions. So these people who are spending all this money and then send it to your kid because they got them to go ahead and jump in Discord and go ahead and jump in the game and stuff. The other thing is in the Roblox games, they're exposing them to the CSAM in those games. They're exposing them to something happening to them in those games and something happening to others in front of them in that game. So they're getting them used to, this is okay. And then eventually they get them to send images and stuff like that to them. So you're going to ask, what about these groups? Why do they call them that they're neo-Nazi groups? What does that all mean? How does this all work? And I'm going to do my very best to explain to you. And let me warn you, this is going to end up being a marathon show for me because of how much information I'm going to go through with you. If you don't get to the ending, I do encourage you to please, if you have to cut off, to come back to watch to the ending, to see all the details, to see all the information, to see resources, to see where you can go for help, where you tell people to go for help, and to hear about what happened, and you just won't even believe it. So originally this started with a group of Order of Nine Angles. It also goes by O9A or ONA. And that was a group, and I'll be going into this, is a group that started in the UK. And what I want to explain now, every group, not all the groups, but the worst of these groups that we're being warned about, which is 764 and CVLT, which CVLT stands for cult to them. That's how they spell cult in that particular group. Okay. Those groups I'm going to go through. MKY, Scattered Spider. Scattered Spider is also known as Octotemptus. No Lives Matter. It's connected to school shootings. That some of the latest school shootings that you know of, these kids, which the news doesn't overly promote, were on these sites, were being encouraged by these people. Maniac Murder Cult was out of the Ukraine. Harm Nation. Now, Order 9 Angles is where they got their ideology from. And the COM, or the community, is what now, what they consider a network that is a bunch of interlocking groups with thousands and thousands of users. They don't have a handle yet on how many thousands of people belong to it. But they do know for what they're catching now, and that they've been catching probably for the last, I would say, at 5 or 6 years is what they've been able to track back in records so far, is that there are hardcore members who are victimizing the children through coordinated online campaigns of the extortion, the doxing, the swatting, the harassment, all of this type of stuff. So when I talked about, you know, I've said before, wow, when I share these guys who are getting arrested with you, and we see how much younger and younger and younger that they are. The other warning I'm going to give you is not just about the kids who are the victims of it and who end up being victimized and cut and explored, but also I want you to be aware, because there's also girls, not many, but girls who are in the groups as well, who victimize some people, mostly boys. There are men in these groups, so please don't think there's not men. There is. And please don't stick on the neo-Nazi part either. Don't get caught up in, it's, just these white people who are doing it. Don't think about that either, because that's not what this comes out to be. But these kids who go on and they're doing games, and then they go in the discords, because they're exposing them to CSAM, to child pornography, to child exploitation. It is making them see this for the first time at ages 7, 8, 9, 10, right? All of this stuff. So then we see the kids who are being arrested who are 17, 18, 19, in their young 20s, who are looking at child pornography. So they're getting exposed to that this is normal shit. And so no matter what, your kids don't need to be talking to or in a private Discord or in these groups or, god dang, playing Roblox or Minecraft with somebody who could be talking sex shit with them. And then getting them to move over to a Discord or a Kick or any app that makes shit disappear. So let's start with the order of 9 angles. And let me know if you're not hearing this at all.
The Order of 9 Angles is a satanic and left-hand path occult group based in the United Kingdom, but with associated groups in various other parts of the world. Claiming to have been established in the 1960s, it rose to public recognition in the early 1980s, attracting attention for its neo-Nazi ideologies and activism. Describing its approach as traditional Satanism, it has been identified by academic researchers as also exhibiting Hermetic and modern pagan elements in its beliefs. According to the order's own account, it was established in the Welsh Marches of Western England during the late 1960s by a woman who had previously been involved in a secretive pre-Christian sect surviving in the region. This account also states that in 1973 a man named Anton Long was initiated into the group, subsequently becoming its Grand Master. Several academic commentators to have studied the ONA expressed the view that the name Anton Long is probably the pseudonym of the British neo-Nazi activist David Myatt, although Myatt has denied that this is the case. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you would like to view more of our videos. Have a nice day. The Order of 9 Angles is
So, the Order of 9 Angles, through the ventures, it established links with other neo-Nazi satanist groups around the world, and it furthered its cause through the internet, basically, right? Now, here's the thing. I know right now there are some people going, okay, this is some kind of, I'm trying to think of the people, conspiracy theory shit. And I wish that I was telling you some type of conspiracy theory shit. And I don't tell you conspiracy theory shit. That's not what kind of channel I am. I am telling you because these are the connections from it. Now, I'm informing you of the Order of 9 Angles, but I don't want you to get stuck on the neo-Nazi part of it because of the splinter of the web of all these groups that keep forming off of it. So basically, you could sit here and be part of this, and then suddenly you want to create your own little web link, your own little tentacle of it, right? Your own little branch. And so then you have stuff from it. But the one reason that they take stuff from Order of 9 Angles is because their structure says they don't have an actual structure. They would have these groups that would spin off from it, but they would take on what stuff Order 9 Angles was talking about and doing, like committing the crimes, like violence. And they talked about human sacrifice for this group. Well, one big thing that Order of 9 Angles did have is pedophilia. They promoted pedophilia and they promoted rape. And they talked about these spinoff groups as like a collective or an inner ONA. And it is different cells, which when it was spinned off of that, they used to call it nexons. And they talk about the hundreds and hundreds of this. But this group and their spinoffs were connected to rapes, killings, terrorism, kidnappings, and it was in Britain that this was formed. So that organization that they had, and it encourages sexual abuse. And they are, by the British government put as this terrorist group because of things that they were doing. They openly admit to raping kids, and they want to cause disruption amongst society, which you'll find out more when we get to the farther groups and stuff from that. They have different publications, which you wouldn't believe it, but some of this shit actually does. And I mean, one of the books that blew my mind is the Rape Anthology, right? And they praise rape and pedophilia, and say that rape is necessary for accession. So basically, the and you can see it in the middle, in order to advance in rank, an ONA member must perform an assault, with lynching and sexual assault being the most recommended. This is the same thing that is being adopted into these other groups. Okay, this is talking about the ideology spreading across the globe in the United Kingdom, North America, and Australia. Again, if there's trouble being heard, just let me know.
The Order of Nine Angles, or O9A, is an occult secret society known for its disturbing blend of occultism, violent extremism, and alleged ties to neo-Nazism. Founded in the 1960s in the UK, O9A promotes a philosophy of survival of the fittest and advocates societal collapse to bring about a new era. Its followers are encouraged to engage in criminal acts, viewing violence as a path to personal empowerment and societal disruption. The group's influence may be larger than initially believed, with suspected followers across Europe, North America, and Australia. Reports suggest some members even hold positions in the military and law enforcement, raising concerns about potential infiltration into institutions. Online forums have amplified O9A's reach, increasing fears of lone wolf attacks inspired by its radical teachings. Through extreme rituals, including insight roles, followers infiltrate and destabilize organizations, with some taking part in violent acts to further the group's agenda. The debate continues on whether O9A is simply a fringe group or a global threat, but recent incidents linked to its ideology have only heightened the urgency around its growing presence. The Order of Nine Angles, or O9A.
All right, wants to always replay. So I will share, and I don't have, I'm going to just share this out there. I don't have anything to prove it. I do know that very early on that it was shared that allegedly that Richard Allen had a Roblox account. I don't know that. I can't prove that. I know some of you may send me that or share that or say that, and I acknowledge that I've heard the same thing. I have not seen anything that verifies that. And I'm sure if they found something, they wouldn't, because they would be looking deeper into that. So I just want to let everybody know. So this is another gentleman who talks about the group, I think, very well, and describes a little bit more too for us.
Fucking hell, yeah.
Yeah.
Nutters, yeah.
Could you explain like who they are and like what you discovered like whilst you were...
Yeah, so, oh man, asking about O9A, I'm going to sound like a nutcase now. So, as well as doing work, war and reporting, I often war and conflict. So let's start again. as well as covering war and conflict, I cover like extremist politics as well, because obviously a lot of extremists within politics become terrorists, become, you know, militants, whatever. It kind of goes hand in hand. So a few years back, I was looking into a neo-Nazi group called Atomwaffen Division, essentially like you know, a neo-Nazi paramilitary group in America. They killed, I think, like 4 or 5 people in total. Where did that 09A come in? Yeah. So I was looking at them, and then all of a sudden I started seeing this weird, like, satanic iconography come into their like designs. And I recognize some of it because outside of my work, I'm fascinated with like weird, like occult stuff. Not that I practice it or anything like that. I just find it interesting, you know, like cults and like weird kind of devil worship type stuff. Like, you know, all the like cheerful stuff, you know what I mean? So I was looking into it, and then I was like, I know that symbol. And basically, long story short, a satanic kind of occult group that started in England and believes in like human sacrifices had made its way somehow through the internet to a neo-Nazi group in America who took on their iconography and were like, right, we're like the paramilitary kind of neo-Nazi 09A force. 09A is Order of 9 Angles. It's weird. And this isn't like, you know, you get all these satanic idiots. Every third podcast in Britain is, have you heard about this satanic paedophile ring? And 9 times out of 10, it's unfortunately masking a very real issue, but blowing it out of proportion with nonsense conspiracy stuff. But this was real. Like, this is Order of 9 Angles is like actually linked to murders, 2 human sacrifices in Russia last year, actually. So this is a real group. And I was like, wow, that's fascinating. And this Nazi group kind of took on 09A iconography. And some of them even kind of became more interested in the 09A than the Nazi stuff. And yeah, it's just this, the founder of it he was a former neo-Nazi terrorist. Then he converted to Islam and became an Islamist, like an extremist. He wrote a whole book about how great like Al-Qaeda is. Like, yeah, Osama bin Laden's cool, you know, like he was really on it. Then he kind of stopped that and went into this weird like spiritual stuff. He's the guy that's behind it. He claims he's not. It's him. Everybody knows it's him. And yeah, like he was linked to like the Brixton nail bombings. He's just a very weird guy, and now it's actually spreading. And there's kids as young as 13 and 14 that have been convicted in Britain as being members of the 09A, or at least, well, they're not a prescribed organisation, so they're not convicted of being that, but they're convicted of the stuff that they've been involved with as a part of the 09A. And one of the darkest things is they get like girls, like young girls, to harm themselves, like self-harm, and they take images of it. And they're basically, their thing is, whatever is depraved, whatever is seen as fucked up by society, if we can indulge in that, we become like almost like not human anymore. Not physically, there's no physical change, but they become like desensitized to the point where they're like, right, we're just devil, evil, kind of, but like real evil, you know. It's a weird concept. It sounds like a conspiracy. It sounds like a nutcase, but it's real, you know. The fact that, to give you an idea of how real it is, the government right now in Britain is considering prescribing the 09A as a terror organisation. So they know it's real. There's been several attacks related to them. And yeah, it's just like, it's a rabbit hole, you know. It's the maddest rabbit hole I've ever been into. I'm fascinated by it, you know, really fascinated by it. And then the thing is as well, they've got like thousands and thousands of pages of like books, like law, like, you know, rituals. They have this mental game. It's like chess, but it's got like 5 different layers. It's called like the Stargate. Like, it's not just some idiot who's just spawned it on TikTok. You know, it's actually like loads and loads has gone into it, which is alluring for some people. For me, I'm like, fuck that. Like, it's mad, but it's mad. Yeah, it's mad. People love it though. Fucking hell, yeah.
So again, I know some of you may be going, oh my God, what is this? This isn't real. And I'm going to tell you, the most extreme part of that is the Order of 9 Angles. But as I go through these groups, you're going to see, and I'm going to show you actual guys arrested, Iowa, Texas, Virginia, New Jersey, New York, Kentucky, Michigan, victims in Indiana. I'm going to show you all of these in other countries and stuff too. and all the warnings that all these countries are now listing this as a terrorist organization with the crimes. So now when these people are being convicted in the federal, at least in the United States, in their federal indictments now, you can find that it will list the name of the group that they're in. So whether it's 764, CVLT, the COM, any of the groups that it is, they will share and tell the name now, where before it was just about, convicting them on what they did, and then that was it. And it wouldn't pertain to the group. But now you can find with the group. So what is the COM, or the community? So the COM is that network I was showing you on the chart. So it is basically the big overhaul from it. That all of these groups take ideology from the Order of Nine Angles, which one of the common group across the board is pedophilia and child solicitation and self-harm. That is always adopted from those groups. And then there's different levels of violence that's in all of these, okay? So all these groups lock all of these thousands of different users. Users can be in more than one group, just like a pedophile is, right? A pedophile can be on this network or this dark web network, and they're on multiple ones. So the hardcore members are the ones victimizing children. And it's online campaigns of that extortion, the doxing, the swatting, the harassment. And groups like 764 and that global collective loosely associate with this group called the COM. And they use different tools and techniques normally reserved for financial motivated cybercrime tactics. So they do SIM swapping, IP grabbing, social engineering to commit violent crimes, also financial crimes. So the efforts or the reports offer insight of the underbelly of the global network, showing how they use traditional cybercriminal tools to identify, target, groom, extort, and cause physical and psychological harm to victims as young as 8 years old. They were shared with police nationwide and in some cases with foreign allied governments. So the first warning that came out in 2023, finally, that the feds would release about these groups, were giving the names of the subgroups that exist within the network. So the one CVLT, I showed you on that CVLT, they call it the cult, but they spell it CVLT. Court, Cascar, Harm Nation, Leak Society, 7997, 8884, 2992, 555, Slit Town, 545, 6996, 405, NMK, 303, SR1, XVN, and H311. Here's the thing. That is not all of them. I tried to keep adding more to that slide that I showed you of that network. If you need to go back to look at that later, I encourage you. I'm sure there's a lot that you may need to go back and pause and look at. So so all of these groups are commonly referred to as the COM, as the community. And in 2024, they're saying at the time that they estimated there was hundreds of such members that engaged in all of this. That's exceeded already. And we've talked about what stuff that they go in. And CVLT was founded in 2019 in France by a user name called Rohan, who blackmailed victims into recording child sexual abuse material and degrading acts for commercial gain. Now, one of the first that came out, and unfortunately, they weren't coming out soon enough. This is the warning from Canada that they issued, and they were showing, the warning people, them being on Discord, Telegram, Minecraft, Roblox, Twitch, Steam, and warning about what was happening and stuff in it. I'll be showing you later a victim who comes forward who had been a victim for years and tried to come forward, and nobody was listening to her at the time. And many, many years later, they come back to talk to her about it because now they know the big issue. Well, when you talk about what stuff was happening to her, it was technically 4 to 5 years prior. So now, what is Scattered Spider? So Scattered Spider is another online community under the COM. It has about 1,000 young cyber criminals at the time. You know, they can't find them all, so that's what they're saying. An organized platform. They're tracked by cybersecurity firms as and under the names Octopus, Octotemptus, and UN 3944. They target big name companies, including, and you may have heard about this in the news, the casino MGM Resorts in Las Vegas and Clorox. So basically between September 2021, April 2023, the defendants of this disseminated a mass SMS phishing message to employees of the target companies. And so the individuals of those accounts would deactivation warnings directly to users to fish out the sites, mirror them, right? And then when the employees entered their credentials, they were able to gain unauthorized access to the corporate systems. And so they were able to steal intellectual property and personal ID. The group also used stolen information to break into many cryptocurrency accounts and steal millions of dollars. Now, I'll say that because they dealt with cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. That's also how there's another group that this won't even encompass because I didn't even get there, who just dealt with making money off of cryptocurrency and that. And I will be doing that because you know who one of our friends were in Indiana who had a cryptocurrency and Bitcoin account. So back then when this was all going, the companies were pretty pissed and they didn't think the FBI was doing enough about the group Scattered Spider and the COM, because all of these, again, they target this together. So I've got a couple things for them to talk to you. So let's listen to this. Again, if you have trouble hearing, please let me know if there's issue with the sound.
A notorious hacking group known as Scattered Spider, linked to high-profile phishing attacks and cryptocurrency thefts, has landed in legal hot water. Security experts have said Scattered Spider is composed of small clusters of people including youngsters who collaborate on and off on specific jobs. This group has targeted major tech firms like Twilio, Coinbase, Reddit, and MailChimp. They also ventured into ransomware, allegedly orchestrating a September 2023 attack on MGM resorts. That hack disrupted casino operations across Las Vegas, causing financial and reputational damage. The Justice Department has now indicted 5 key members, who range in age from 20 to 25, spanning locations in the US, the UK, and Scotland. Their crimes? Phishing, SIM swapping, and laundering millions in stolen cryptocurrency. Scattered Spider's key strategy is phishing, sending fake messages to trick people into revealing sensitive credentials. The group's most lucrative method was SIM swapping, an attack where they hijacked phone numbers to intercept two-factor authentication codes. This allowed them to access accounts and transfer millions in cryptocurrency to their wallets. Authorities zeroed in on members through careful investigation. One defendant operated from Scotland but was arrested in Spain. He was reportedly holding $27 million in stolen Bitcoin. Another was traced via online forums and email addresses linked to his aliases. These hackers face severe penalties, up to 20 years for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, plus additional sentences for identity theft. While these arrests mark a significant victory, the group's exploits reveal how fragile our digital systems can be. So, what can you do to protect yourself? Always verify suspicious messages. Avoid clicking on links from unknown senders. And use multi-factor authentication tools that aren't tied to SMS, such as authentication apps. Groups like Scattered Spider show us the stakes are higher than ever. Stay informed, stay safe.
So this is a quick video that talks specifically on the day of the hacking of MGM Studios, what this network did.
So this has got to be one of the most bizarre Las Vegas stories ever. So suddenly, while slot machines were programmatically stealing people's money, they stopped working. Then payment systems stopped working. Then the key cards to people's overpriced hotel rooms stopped working. And as per usual, there were long lines at the hotel check-in desks across the Las Vegas Strip. Then a sketchy person walked up to the cage at Mandalay Bay, which is really nothing unusual in Las Vegas. But what is unusual is he handed them a ransom note demanding $40 million to stop the cyber attack. So you're probably thinking, sophisticated Russian hacker group. Nope. It was done by a group of teenagers in the US and Europe who call themselves Scattered Spider. They told VX Underground that they compromised MGM by finding an employee on LinkedIn and then calling MGM's help desk to social engineer their way into his account. Shortly after the attack, MGM claimed that its resorts were currently operational. They reverted back to paper processing. Crisis averted. People can now continue the debauchery and waste their money in Las Vegas. So this is.
So now we get into 764 and CVLT, the cult. So it is a subgroup of the COM. It's decentralized as well. They found from the Order of Nine Angels, Satanic Terrorist Network, classified as a terror network by the United States Department of Justice. It is considered by the Federal Bureau of Investigations as a Tier 1 terror threat. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police also classified 764 as an ideology violent extremist network and has been characterized as a satanic neo-Nazi cult by multiple sources. So this is going to talk a little bit, this officer is going to talk a little bit about the founder of 764 and the warning of 764. But we'll also go into it because you'll be a little shocked of how this started and what was created.
Important topic here. Authorities are cracking down on an incredibly dangerous criminal network out there with a strong online presence. My next guest has more details on the 764 organization, and here's what you need to know as parents.
And joining us on The Factor Uncensored, we have with us Greg Dupree, a familiar face, former law enforcement officer with TLAC Now. Greg, what we have seen across the country is individual after individual in recent months taken down by federal investigators. One, the latest, the guy in Tampa, Florida, accused of exploiting children. But what I found was interesting, even more interesting, was that there is an entire network, an organized group that they are calling the 764 organization. For those who are wondering what it is and how dangerous it can be, what do you know about the 764 organization?
Okay. The 764 organization was started right here in Texas, in Erath County, by a young man named Bradley Cadenhead, who set this up where he targeted and exploited young children over internet, social media, gaming platforms, and he built this network based primarily just to do that. It promoted child sexual abuse material. And he would go out and target these kids with low self-esteem or who had eating disorders, and they were easy enough to find on social media. And once he got on gaming platforms, and once he got a hold of them, he would bring them over to Discord, which is a community site where it initially started for gamers, but there are all sorts of online communities over there. And they could have private chats. And what he would do, he would convince these kids to start doing things such as sending sexually explicit photos, self-mutilation, and even to the point of suicide. Now, he was arrested and charged back in 2023 for these crimes, and he is currently serving 80 years in prison. But the seed had already been planted, and the network started to grow. And Isaiah, it's not just a problem here in the United States, it's an international problem. Canada has a serious problem. They've done a lot of investigations where kids have been sucked into this network. And the really unique thing about it is that most of the perpetrators are kids themselves. You might have a 13-year-old exploiting a 16 or 17-year-old. Mm-hmm. And so the majority of their targets, as I said, are kids, but so are the majority of the perpetrators, and it's continuing to grow.
When we see networks like this, we're almost confused on how they survive. How do people get involved when the FBI has always got an eye on this kind of stuff?
Right.
But people are still able to do it. People are still exploiting children. And I think one report indicated that it had a satanic connection with it.
Exactly.
So it has tentacles out there.
It's connected. Well, the inspiration for this network came from another group of satanic neo-Nazis called the Order of Nine Angels. And it just grew from there. And the stories that you've seen is that they want to create chaos. They want to promote hatred, not with any specific group in mind. They target everybody. It's really an anarchist group, and they just want to create total chaos and disrupt everything about the government that they possibly can. But it's all based in hatred and exploitation.
What should parents do to protect their children in a situation like this if they are mainly targeting children out there, and especially if some of the perpetrators happen to be teenagers themselves?
Right. You want to look at your child's profiles, what they're doing, obviously monitor their internet and social media activity. You want to pay attention to their behavior. You also want to pay attention, look for the signs of graffiti. It could have they spell cult, CLVT. That's one of the signs. They also use the initials MKY, obviously 764. The 764, for those who wonder where the number came from, as I said, it started right here in Texas. When Bradley Cadenhead started this, he just used the first three numbers of his zip code right there in Stephenville. So that's where those numbers came from. But back to your original question, as I said, you want to monitor their social media activity. You want to pay attention to their behavior. Are they depressed? Are they suffering from any type of behavioral issues? And are they spending inordinate amount of time on social media looking at dark subject matter. You also want to pay attention to see if there are any signs of self-mutilation. Are they cutting themselves? Even if those are getting tattoos, look at the tattoos, see what the tattoos say. And then you want to see if they're being more reclusive and spending more time closed in on social media and the internet than they are outside with their friends. If they're completely cut off and reclusive, that's a strong indication that something is going on with them. And you want to look a little bit deeper into what's possibly going on.
Horrible situation, but we know the feds are out there looking for those who may be complicit in this organization and group.
Exactly.
And of course, it's just a scary situation for parents out there. You have to take the time to make sure your children are okay.
Exactly.
And pray.
Right. And it's not just, the FBI is looking at this, but, our law enforcement, local law enforcement agencies across the country, they have been very diligent in looking at this organization. And the thing is, it's just only recently, within the last couple of years or so, that they've been able to put the pieces together and say, okay, now we see this network and how large it is. Now the FBI is stepping in, and as I said, there are also international agencies looking at this too, because it has grown by leaps and bounds across the world.
Incredible segment there. Make sure you check on your children where they're on the computer or on social media to make sure that they're okay. Those individuals out there are looking to harm them and take advantage. So be careful, parents. Important topic.
So let's talk about the kid who created this, and then show all the different states and stuff that this has hit, including Indiana. So the 764 was started, like they said, in 2021. The kid was only 15 years old at the time. He was a teenager from Stephenville, Texas. And as they said, it derived from a zip code. He used a username called Felix on Discord. He was bullied in school, and then he dropped out in 2021. And he learned to groom and extort minors on a sextortion Discord server named CVLT. So he started on CVLT himself, and then he formed the new 764, which is larger. There are a lot of the kids who are in this who are extremely young, who are kids have been bullied, they dropped out of school, they're isolated, they just stay secluded on their computers all the time, and they're working this network to be able to extort kids. And it's mostly present on Discord and Telegram, and that's when they're targeting kids age 8 to 17. And any marginalized children or those suffering from mental health challenges. So they're forced to commit and record any acts of the self-harm, animal cruelty, disseminate the internal or share social media platforms. They're asked to carve the name on their skin as a cut sign, as a form of branding to show their subjugation by the group. And given an end goal of committing suicide on live stream for the network's entertainment, or for the perpetrator's own sense of fame within the network because they got them to do this. So this is 764 Australia, Roblox, and Discord. And this is one we'll start with here.
They know exactly what they're doing. They know who to target. They know what to say. It's like a playbook. And then they share it amongst themselves and the competition then to see who can get the worst stuff.
That is the mother of an Australian teen who for 10 months was trapped by an online cult. What is just as frightening is how easily the teen and hundreds of others around the globe have been tricked, manipulated, and blackmailed by these violent online thugs. In most cases, it's happening right under the noses of their unsuspecting parents. Online game Roblox has been downloaded 905 million times since its launch in 2006. It currently has 70.2 million daily active users. Discord is an online chat built as a place where users can talk every day and hang out more often. It has more than 175 million active monthly users. From the outside, they look like harmless sites, keeping restless kids and teens occupied, but the reality is much darker. These predators search for their victims on computer games like Roblox and then persuade them to move on to chat apps like Discord.
So they start with getting the children to do something small doesn't seem like a big deal, be clothed or whatever. They also share a lot of child sexual exploitation material in the groups that then desensitizes the other children and makes them feel like it's not such a big deal. And then they escalate the demands to the point where it's very explicit, awful, the worst things that you could possibly imagine. And then there is also the violent self-mutilation. It's not even just self-harming. It's like it's next level, and they get the children to carve their names into their bodies, that kind of thing.
The teen lived in a constant state of terror for those 10 months as her abusers got her to provide ever more extreme content. Getting out of their clutches wasn't easy. They had sexualized pictures of the girl, which they used to blackmail her. Her mother found out what was happening when they published explicit photos of her on her social media accounts. Even then, their demands did not stop. In fact, they escalated. They asked her to kill the family cat. When she refused, they swatted her, which means they made a false report to local police.
Police! Come to the door. Hold your hands up. Unlock the door. Step outside. Keep your hands in the air. Turn around.
While she is the first known Australian victim, she is not alone. The FBI put out a public service announcement in September last year, warning of violent online groups, including 764 and others. And since then, at least 5 alleged members have been charged or jailed. One of them is baby-faced 764 cult leader Bradley Cadenhead, who is just 17. Cadenhead from Texas was sentenced to 80 years in prison after pleading guilty to 9 counts, including possessing and promoting child pornography. One video retrieved from Cadenhead's computer showed one of his followers killing her hamster. The mother of the Australian victim says going online and seeing hundreds of images of her child in sexual poses or self-harming, and those of other victims, is the worst thing she has ever seen.
I couldn't think of seeing anything worse than that, and knowing that it was out there and the feeling of being out of control and not being able to fix it. I would close my eyes at night and all I would see was these images, which obviously you don't want to even remember at all, but it was like it was imprinted, and every time I close my eyes, that's what I can see.
Roblox and Discord said they employed thousands of people on keeping their sites safe, with Roblox saying it uses rigorous, industry-leading text chat filters to block attempts to take someone off its platform or use questions to get personal information like a phone number or address of another user. A Discord spokesperson said its safety team has played a key role in combating 764 by proactively identifying, removing, and banning related accounts and users.
So, make sure I didn't jump ahead too far. Nope. So, inspired by the ideology of the 098, CVLT, and 764, there was a group called Maniac Murder Cult that was in the Ukraine. CVLT and later Cadenhead 764 sought ideology inspired by the Order of Nine Angels that involved the adoption of various hysteric ideas and tenets, including neo-Nazism, Western exorcism, Satanism, Wicca, and making apparent blood covenants to Satan. The network later entered a partnership with the neo-fascist Ukraine Maniac Murder Cult, which gained notoriety for attacks against homeless people. The alleged leader of the Maniac Murder Cult, 20-year-old Michael, who went by Commander Butcher, I won't try his last name, was arrested in Moldova and extradited to New York, where he faced federal hate crime charges for plotting to poison Jewish children. So this is from about Canada and 764 with Canada victims, and talks a little bit about the school shooting, stabbings in Sweden, and murder of elderly women in Romania. Again, all the same group, and more of the school shooting and stuff specifically, I'll be able to tell you. Remember that these are groups who are still at the same time dealing with pedophilia, contacting your kids online. They are extorting them, soliciting them, making them do harmful stuff to them. If your children suffer from depression, food eating disorders, those types of things, they find these kids on gaming, on Facebook, on all of them, and get them to go to these sites. So this is addition. I'm not going way beyond that, but I wanted you to all be aware of the other horrific things they do, because you can have a son and daughter who ends up caught up in this network, who then suddenly wants to be a part of it and commit stuff as well. So let's look at this one from Canada.
Trinity hides her scars but can't unsee them.
I look in the mirror now and I still see that engraved in my chest. I really wish it wasn't there.
Trinity says she was forced to carve into her body by members of a violent online network of predators called 764. She says they also forced her to share sexually explicit images and even goaded her on when she attempted suicide.
I was having a mental breakdown and I lifted up my shirt and I said, "Look what they've done to me. Look what they've done to me. I can't take this anymore."
Trinity reported her exploitation to the RCMP in Red Deer in July 2021. But she and her mother, Maria, didn't feel their case was being taken seriously until years later, when a detective in North Carolina started looking into Trinity's case.
Hearing Trinity say, "This is what he did to me," it still is hard to wrap my brain around.
For their safety, we're not using their last names.
Maybe they didn't take it serious that way because she was the one holding the knife, but it should have been taken serious.
Police say 764 and its related groups are terrorizing thousands of children around the world. Its members prowl on popular platforms and lure vulnerable minors into private groups where they push them to self-harm, hurt their pets, and kill themselves.
The most horrendous part about it is it's minors doing this to minors. And we're talking about 13-year-olds targeting 16-year-olds, 16-year-olds sextorting 11-year-olds.
Alberta police identified the first official 764 case in Canada last year when they arrested a 14-year-old in Lethbridge. Argentino says there are now likely members and victims in every province and territory, and the threat is moving offline. A recent school shooting in Nashville is linked to 764. Several stabbings in Sweden and the murder of an elderly woman in Romania are also tied to the group. The RCMP now calls 764 a terror threat.
There is active threat actors, including in Canada, that are actively engaging in violent acts on children and encouraging them to commit terroristic acts.
RCMP issued a public safety advisory last summer, 3 years after Trinity went to police.
I am glad that they're listening now. I don't ever want to watch another child suffer the way that my child suffered.
The FBI and the RCMP have spoken to the family in recent months, but no one has been held accountable for Trinity's abuse.
Joanna, it is shocking that most of these cases involve minors victimizing minors. What's next for those who've been convicted?
Many of them in the US especially are serving long sentences, but here in Canada, the focus seems to be more on rehabilitation. So we spoke to experts in Edmonton who help reintegrate extremists into society. They're the first ones in Canada dealing with 764 members. Both are minors referred by the courts. And they told us often predators have their own history of abuse and that with the right intervention, they can develop compassion and empathy. And they say that's critical because they're so young. Without that intervention, the risk is they'll become more entrenched in their thinking.
Joanna Emiliotis, thank you.
Thank you.
The Fifth Estate's investigation airs tomorrow night at 9 p.m. on CBC Television and GEM. You can also catch it on YouTube tomorrow afternoon.
Trinity hides her scars, but
So you see that it's years later before that mom and that little girl got any assistance whatsoever, but it still hasn't held them accountable whatsoever either. And remember, there are grown man adults in these groups as well, but they're letting the teenagers and stuff do that because they expect them to get less time. They expect them to be able to also persuade younger and younger kids to be giving and sending these images because they'll send it to younger kids rather than sending to them themselves. The same thing kind of goes for if you're not using an actual profile picture somewhere, then you're sitting here communicating with somebody and they don't know how old you are, and the kids can talk in jargon and stuff together. So this is just a little blurb info about Telegram and a fake suicide prevention channel that members of the 764, 6996, and the COM were using and trying to get kids to be on. So we'll watch this really quick.
From the CISO series, it's Cybersecurity Headlines.
These are the cybersecurity headlines for Friday, December 6, 2024. I'm Rich Straffolino. Feds find cybercriminal tools used by sextortion group. According to a joint intelligence note from the Joint Regional Intelligence Center and the Central California Intelligence Center seen by Cyberscoop, the child sextortion group 764 uses traditional cybercrime techniques in its operation, including SIM swapping, social engineering, and IP grabbing. Much of this comes from a Telegram channel operated by the group 6996, which associates with a wider collective called the COM. This documentation offers resources and tools for committing fraud, grooming minors for self-harm, and forming a cult. Further FBI notes seen by Cyberscoop show Group 764 operates a fake Telegram channel that offers suicide prevention support, but ultimately is used to dox and extort victims.
From this.
So you've got kids who need help, and they go on a site that they think they're going to get help if they feel suicidal. And when they go in there, it's actually this group that is going to try to get them to hurt themselves, demean them, call them names, talk about them horribly, get them to hurt themselves, and then eventually sit here and try to get them to commit suicide. So they want to go after those kids because they believe those kids will be easier to target. So this guy is a creator of this game, a Sonic game he created inside the Roblox. He's 22 years old. He's from New Jersey, named Arnold Castillo. And I want you to pay really close attention to this one, because on the other side of it, I will tell you why.
Social media platforms, gaming platforms,
abuse material.
I discovered is that of Arnold Castillo. This was an online predator who was a very popular developer of a Sonic Eclipse game that he created on Roblox. Castillo made tens of thousands of dollars because this game was so popular and children loved it so much. In the fall of 2020, Castillo's game just exploded. And it was towards the end of that year when some sinister messages he'd been sending to a 12-year-old girl were leaked online. There was a conversation between you and Arnold Castillo that was leaked online, and at the time you were 12 years old. So can you bring us back to that moment for you? What was it like for you as a 12-year-old girl to be speaking to who you thought was an adult man in this way?
At the time, I excused and justified the behavior because he kept making a point. They're just jokes. This is ironic. We're just joking around.
My sense of humor has always been very harsh, dark humor, if you will. And while it doesn't excuse my behavior, it does reveal that I had no intention on moving on any of the things I said.
And how did your relationship with Arnold Castillo change over time?
It started becoming pretty inappropriate like very early on, but over the years it got more and more more and more like he had ulterior motives, sort of deal, you know.
Can you explain what you mean by ulterior motives?
Certain things like corrupting me beyond, and wanting to kidnap me, keep me in his house, keep me in his basement, take me away from my parents, that sort of stuff.
When these messages leaked, a number of Roblox users filed complaints to the company. 4 days after those reports came in, Roblox did take action. They disabled Arnold Castillo's account, but he was always one step ahead. He quickly created a new account and transferred the game over to a friend who kept it running. It wasn't until the end of 2021 that these teen gamers took the fight beyond Roblox straight to Sega in Japan. One of them wrote a letter to the Sega Corporation saying its Sonic the Hedgehog mascot was being appropriated by a pedophile on the gaming platform Roblox. Sega actually filed a copyright infringement notice against Roblox, which eventually shut the game down. He was still accessing Roblox up until his arrest by the FBI in May of 2022. Arnold Castillo was arrested for kidnapping a 15-year-old girl. For you, I mean, some of the messages that he sent you years earlier were about kidnapping you, bringing you to his home.
Exactly.
Having sexual relationship with you. So reading about what had happened to this girl who was abducted and taken across state lines to his home, how did it feel?
I was sad. I felt terrible. It was just like, I somehow this slipped under everybody's noses and somebody else ended up becoming a victim. And I was starting to speak up about this in the first place, specifically so people got the full story so we could avoid more victims. And that broke my spirit, man. That just, yeah.
Ultimately, it wasn't Roblox that shut down his Sonic Eclipse game. It was Sega. It was the intellectual property rights of a corporation that resulted in that game being shut down, not all the complaints that these users had made to Roblox about child safety. So because these gamers...
So you can see why they don't have much worry about it, because they're making money. So here's what I want to share. The girl that Arnold Castillo basically kidnapped and got was an Indiana girl. He lived in New Jersey, and he created that game and was making all of that money. The girl was 15 years old. So he was charged by the Southern District of Indiana Federal Court with enticement of a minor, interstate transportation of a minor to engage in criminal sexual activity. So at the time this was all being done, he was 22. According to the court documents, beginning sometime in February of 22, Costello used a social media application to communicate with her minor child from central Indiana with the goal of luring her to New Jersey for illicit sexual purposes. Over several months, Costello showed praise upon the minor and sent her gifts through an online retailer and paid her money. These tactics, also known as grooming, are used by sex offenders to gain minors' trust and alienate them from their family and other support systems. So May 3rd of 2022, Costello coerced and enticed the minor to travel from Indiana to New Jersey for illicit purposes. He paid and arranged for an Uber driver to pick up the minor and transport her across state lines to drive her from Indiana to New Jersey. Using data from the social media application, an online retailer investigation traced the minor to an address in Paterson, New Jersey. And on May 11th, 2022, investigators recovered the minor from Costello's residence and later reunited her with her mother. New Jersey authorities arrested Costello and on state charges, and then he was charged under federal court in Indianapolis. On May 12, 2022, he appeared before the magistrate in New Jersey and was detained in order for him to be removed for the Southern District of Indiana. And his initial appearance in Indianapolis at this time was ordered to be detained in custody. They said if convicted, Costello would face up to life in prison on each of the two charges, actual sentencing to be determined by the federal judge. Well, first of all, I'll let you know that I remember this girl being missing. I posted about this girl being missing. And this girl is a special needs girl. She was missing for 8 days. And her family and even the local police could not at first figure out where was she, right? Like, you know, they thought she'd, you know, maybe be at a friend's house or something like that. So, FBI Indianapolis Violent Crime Task Force investigated the case, and the Lawrence Police Department, and it's got all the different departments and stuff, Marion County Prosecutor, all of the offices and stuff from there. In fiscal year 2019, the most recent year for which the data is available, the Southwest District of Indiana was second out of 94 federal districts in the country for the number of child sexual exploitation cases of prosecution. So let me say that again. In 2019, now we have a Northern District, Federal District in Indiana, and we have a Southern District of Indiana. And the Southern Federal District of Indiana that handles those counties and part of the state was second in the country out of 94. So I say to everybody who's like, man, I don't want to live in Indiana. Look at all those predators getting caught. Look at all this. Let me tell you this. I'd rather be in a state that I hear all the time of them catching these predators than be in a state if you're not hearing about them catching all of these predators. And if they're not, you need to find out why. What is the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force doing in your own state or your own country? What are they doing? So you know how they said he could be sentenced to life? The creator of this Sonic thing on Roblox, getting all of these children. You heard the other little girl who was 12. and was being and talked to. And then he gets this 15-year. He kept telling that other girl, I want to kidnap you. I want to put you in my basement. Wow, we had a predator who did that. Who was busted. If anybody wants to remember Chadwell, who, by the way, if you've never heard me say this, Chadwell, who was living in Lafayette when he got busted, he was originally from Peru. He just moved from Peru. Now, he got 15 years for transporting her across state lines for sex and targeting these kids. So Arnold Castillo, 23, gets the 15 years. According to the court documents, in January of May 2022, Castillo used a false identity called Jacob Sheldesky. Trust me, they have tons and tons of them. They don't have just one. To communicate and groom a 15-year-old girl via social media and gaming application such as Instagram, Roblox, and Discord. Castillo engaged in grooming behavior such as buying the girls anime artwork. So he told her how great her anime artwork was and he would buy it from her. Using Cash App and purchasing other high-value items on Amazon, such as an artist's glove for drawing tablet, a Mac Smart tablet drawing stand, and a Wacom Mobile Studio Pro 13 Windows 10 computer to be delivered to her parents' home in Indiana. Castillo intentionally led the girl to believe that he had the ability to connect her to employment opportunities in the online gaming industry and used the leverage to engage her in sexually explicit conversations with her. He coerced and persuaded the girl into believing that they were in love and that her family was the enemy. Well, of course, that's what they did. So during the conversations, he discussed his plans to arrange for the girl to travel from Indiana to New Jersey and said that they could be together and engage in sexual activity. Castillo used the Uber application to find and hire a driver to New Jersey to transport the girl the 700 miles away. This is where your kid's going to be. In his residence, he paid the driver $500 through Cash App before they left New Jersey and another $500 in Cash App when they returned with the victim. Remember, he got her there. When the girl arrived at Castillo's New Jersey residence, Castillo sexually abused her multiple times, multiple occasions, and used Uber to have others purchase or attempt to purchase the Plan B pill to prevent that she wouldn't become pregnant from him sexually assaulting her. He's sending Uber to go buy the fucking Plan B pill. Sorry, I'm getting mad. On May 11th of 2022, 8 days after the girl was reported missing, FBI agents recovered her from Castillo as the two were walking in front of the residence at the time of his arrest. He had several unopened condoms in his pocket. I don't know why, since he keeps buying the Plan B, right? He admitted to law enforcement agents that he kept the victim in his care, custody, and control in a small room and controlled her movements and out of the room, in and out of the room, and also controlled her access to food and basic necessities, knowing that she had no financial resources or ability to travel back to Indiana. Then this is Zachary Myers, who I hate this because he left. He was in charge of that federal district, and he was great, but he's retired on. No parent should have to endure 8 torturous days to not know if their child is alive or dead, only to learn that a stranger use social media and other online tools to groom their child and spirit them across the country. Southern District of Indiana. Stone cold manipulator, child predator who used the tools of social media and gaming to abuse a vulnerable child and then obstructed the efforts of law enforcement officers to secure her safe return home. 15 years. That's all he got. Indiana girl, 15 years old. Special needs. So basically, he pled guilty instead of going to court, which is why he got that less of a time. It just talks about, you know, her parents and them not knowing where she was. And, you know, this is part of the Project Safe Childhood thing. Now, this is a Fox 59 news. This is a girl who is now 19. She was a victim since age of 12 and did not tell her mother until recently about what was happening to her.
People don't become aware of what's going on, their kids are going to die.
We are bringing you an important warning tonight about predators enticing children, potentially through a sinister crime called sextortion. And the problem is growing. Sextortion can involve a perpetrator exploiting a child for sexual images or for money.
This evening, a 19-year-old explains how people preyed on her for years. Fox 59 investigator Courtney Crown shares her message for parents. And we do want to warn you, some of the information you are about to see is disturbing.
It's full on, like, sex, I guess, with kids. It's not just pictures and videos. I feel like that's not as common as the live videos.
It seems like hell on earth.
Yeah.
This young woman was just 12 years old when what seemed like innocent attention from strangers took a dark turn on the online chatting site Omegle.
As soon as the chat would start, they would send ASL, which is age, sex, location. Because sometimes I would tell them, like, hey, I'm 13 or hey, I'm 14, and they would get like more turned on by that.
As with most sextortion cases, it progressed from talking to pictures to video chats.
Like, what they were doing was horrible, but I still went back because at least it was just like a little bit of attention.
One video she saw still traumatizes her to this day. A man appeared on screen with a small child.
She was still in diapers, and he just kind of was like, you know what to do.
Sextortion's horrible impacts still affect her today. She remembers the first time she wore a bra.
I just felt so womanly, and it made me cry. I still wear baggy clothes and stuff, and I don't like all the time wearing tighter things because it used to make me feel like people were looking at me the same way those men were.
Sextortion is child manipulation. It usually begins with a conversation over social media, a website, or a game, escalating to requests for more and more explicit pictures or videos.
The perpetrator will say, hey, I want something now, and you better give it to me now, or it will expose you or send out your pictures. So no matter what time of day, no matter what they're doing, and it's really bad for a victim's just state of mind and mental health.
Just total control.
Mm-hmm.
Special Agent Andrew Willman says this is a growing problem. There were 18,000 sextortion complaints to the FBI last year. Willman says parents and trusted adults can rescue victims faster.
The victims that we see that get caught early are the ones that have very open relationships with their parents, that they know that their parents aren't going to treat them horribly because they've come forward and said that I've got a problem.
You shouldn't be mad at them for that.
Our survivor is 19 now. It wasn't until April of this year when she finally told her mom what she endured from ages 12 to 17.
When she told me, I couldn't even catch my breath.
The victim's mom says she saw behavioral changes in her daughter, but never suspected they were from sextortion.
She was aloof. She didn't want to be bothered. She wanted to stay in her room by herself. There were cuts. There were physical signs.
The mom kept a monitoring app on her phone throughout, but it did not reveal the abuse. The FBI says the monitoring apps are merely a tool.
They aren't going to catch everything. Your child needs to understand that you can look at it no matter what time, anytime, you can take a look at that phone.
Unfortunately, Willman says many child victims are afraid to come forward, but our survivor wants other sextortion victims to know you can take back control of your life.
If they tell you like they're going to send all this stuff to your family and friends in your school, or if they're going to post it online, they're not going to. You just got to ghost them.
Special Agent Willman says while this is a prevalent crime, there's no guarantee that your child will become a victim. Here are 3 ways that you can best protect them. Always make sure that your children know you can look at their phones at any time. The most concerning apps are those that delete messages immediately, so encourage your kids not to download those. And finally, always encourage your children to only talk to people they know in real life. Reporting in the newsroom, Courtney Crown, Fox 59 Investigates.
So this is, I think that's a good warning for stuff for people to realize. I mean, look how long that girl, she was 19 years old before she came forward. These are other examples of people who also came forward and ended up catching 764 and many 764 members. And this is why they're now doing the FBI warnings, because of them and because they see how much they're growing. And now they're actually telling us again where these people are from. So this 764 is about Kyle Spitz. He was known as Criminal. He's from Tennessee. And also Cameron Finnegan. His name was, he went by Acid from the UK. And Kyle Spitz is his own story in itself. He had something happen where he was, there was a recording, and you'll see that he was kind of shot at in this recording. Then he gets interviewed by a court show on YouTube as being this victim. Well, they end up finding out that Kyle Spitz actually is a member of the 764, went by Criminal, and had been abusing girls online. And as soon as he was shown on television and everything for him, that's when people came forward. This is the story about how that got busted too.
I just want to figure out what's going on. I want to try to get as many of these people behind bars as possible.
This is Becca. She's a private investigator who hunts online predators. Offline, she also trains as a competitive shooter.
I felt an obligation to do what I could to help the kids, the victims, and to stop these people from doing this to more kids. I saw the video, Kyle Spitz's mom, and that kind of threw me into this world of 764.
At first, there was no connection between 764 and this chaotic video posted last year by a Tennessee man named Kyle Spitz.
Point that gun at me again.
The shooter was his mother's boyfriend, and as the video went viral, Spitz was initially hailed as a victim.
It wasn't until I started to see victims in the comment section saying, this guy's a member of a satanic cult. He had a 12-year-old victim. That girl had come to me for help. She was very afraid. But she did ultimately decide to go to the police after I talked to her for a while.
Becca posted what she had learned about Spitz, who went by Criminal in 764.
And it went like what you would call viral. And it was only a few weeks later that they arrested him. Acid was a friend of Kyle Spitz. He would tell me to quit my reporting, or they were going to find me and, rape and murder me. I remember this one time that my daughter was in the bed sleeping next to me, and I got this message that said, in 30 minutes, if you don't delete everything about me, I'm going to have your house shot up. And I remember just having this surreal moment of I'm living this normal life here with my kid, and then at the same time I'm being threatened by satanic terrorists. And so I called and made a police report about it.
Police in the UK arrested Acid, whose real name is Cameron Finnegan, last March. The 19-year-old was sentenced to 9 years in prison for encouraging a victim to live stream her own suicide. In this police interview, Finnegan showed no remorse.
The only thing you're concerned about is if she went through with it and you got caught. Not about whether she was dead or not.
I don't think about stuff in that moment. That's just stupid, I say without thinking.
That lack of empathy is a chilling hallmark of 764.
I just refuse to let these guys scare me.
Becca says she has reported several 764 members to police.
I think that this is the greatest terror attack facing Western society. And I think it's only a matter of time before one of these kids succeeds in building a bomb or something even more devastating. I just want to.
So, 2021, and you guys may have heard this nationally on the news about this case. And then not realize that it actually connected to 764. So there was a Texas man who drove to kidnap a 12-year-old Virginia girl. It was put on the news when they were looking for her and trying to find her. He was 21. He was accused of abducting her. And the officials with Henry County Sheriff's Office said Allie Michael Broadway, who was reported missing from her Bassett home Friday afternoon, was found with the 21-year-old Caleb Christopher Merritt Saturday near a restaurant in Henderson, North Carolina. So in the Virginia police, and this shit is what pisses me off, and I hear this a lot of times for somebody who needs something shared out about a child who is missing. And that is that we have that people want to treat, if a child is a runaway, a big difference that if a child is missing. In my opinion, if a child is not in your house and you don't know where your child is, that's automatically that your child is missing. Whether they're tempted at the beginning to get out of the house by a predator, which people don't learn until after they've already been taken out of the home and then later seen. We have a case right now that happened. The girl's body was found, and right now we don't have anything from the police saying anything about it. But her parents were the ones who were coming out saying that somebody was communicating with her online, and she was found days later murdered. But I'll talk about that case soon. And so Allie, as you look in this, and this is the police kept reporting, Allie is a runaway. And talked about that investigators drove down there on the way now, as well as federal investigators, and they're talking about that. Okay. We'll be processing the vehicle, blah, 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 blah. And then the investigators say that the suspect met the girl on Instagram. Remember the ages, 21 and 12. So, and he met her in December, and he's up here getting her already, right? So when he drove from Texas to Virginia, this man, and I don't know how more horrific you can think this is, then in February, so he went to see her on February. It was either February 13th or 14th. I may have just passed that, of 2021. He's talking to her on Instagram and stuff in December. So he drives all the way out there to Virginia. They discovered a campsite in the woods that was basically behind their home, there was woods and stuff out there. And this guy is out there and builds a campsite. And he gave the girl instructions via a messaging app. I love when they don't tell us what it is. That for her to come to the woods to meet him. Well, when the girl came to the woods, he raped her in the woods. So as soon as she left her house and got out there, he was raping her. So then he gets her to leave her house for him to pick her up. And he leaves with her. And then they end up getting a tip. And the officer's like, oh, well, we don't want to go in the tip and what the tip was. But we did have a lead that came in and gave some electronic information to begin following. Now, I got two things I'm going to show on this, and one's going to be the update stuff from this. But I want to share this because this is what stuff, when you don't have officers, in my opinion, who are trained to know what's going on. I just think that the way the officers spoke about the little girl, in my opinion, is just not right.
Ago, a tip came in Henderson, North Carolina, and immediately resources began pouring in, and the vehicle was located. Both of them are actually taken into custody without incident. Allie is a runaway. Our investigators are down there on the way now, as well as federal investigators that were going to that location as well. She will be spoken to. We will be asking her about what happened, what information. We'll be processing the vehicle that was used in conjunction with this crime, and our investigators will return Allie to her family. Once again, she is safe. I think she was seen by EMS for very minor injuries, but we are pleased. We always thank the media.
She's a runaway. She'll be spoken to. She was solved for minor injuries. She was taken to the hospital because she was raped.
Thank the community, because this is proof positive of a day and age that these just literally move in seconds and minutes, and the information getting out, and we have had a safe recovery. We'll offer, is there anything you would like to offer on behalf of the
Sheriff? Thank you. What was the tip that led to her discovery?
We actually don't want to go into what the tip was, but we did have a lead that came in, and it gave us some electronic information to begin following, and immediately we started pouring resources in, coordinated with the Henderson Police Department, and then we go back again. This federal team is also able to deploy where leads are going, following and leading to. So here you go.
So we're going to look at Caleb Merritt, 24, Spring, Texas.
The Texas man accused of traveling to Henry County to abduct a 12-year-old girl still in jail tonight.
This after law enforcement worked for 36 hours to bring her home.
And as 10 News reporter Shane Dwyer has learned, police say she may not be the only child he's targeted.
After 36 hours on the run, it's in Henderson, North Carolina, an hour north of Raleigh, where police brought a national Amber Alert to an end.
Officers received that information. We were in the area within 5 minutes and was able to locate the vehicle in question.
Captain Chris Ball with the Henderson Police Department says they were called in to help when investigators tracked 21-year-old Caleb Merritt and the 12-year-old Henry County girl he abducted Friday to their area, thanks to electronic devices.
The street level patrol officer was able to locate and apprehend this individual who appears to be perhaps a career individual related to these types of instances based off of his criminal history or the knowledge based on that.
While we expect to learn more from search warrants and court hearings in the coming days, new details are coming out about the suspect. Investigators believe Merritt was talking with at least one other Henry County girl and are coordinating with other police departments to see if there are more. They describe him as a serial predator who traveled from Texas to Virginia and set up camp in the woods behind her home. Although they had multiple contacts via social media prior to the abduction, police say they lacked probable cause to arrest him. The young girl's family tells 10 News she continues to receive medical attention and is recovering. In Henry County, Shane Dwyer, 10 News, working for you.
The Texas.
So now we go into a CVLT. And remember, the CVLT spinning off a 764. And it's arrest due to an Iowa college student speaking out. Actually, her speaking out catches 4 of these guys. But guess what? The guy from Texas that we just saw ends up to be one of the 4 because he's already arrested in custody when she comes forward. She had been a victim, and a man she met online had continued to blackmail her. And when she went to Iowa State, she finally spoke up, and she was telling that she was being blackmailed by this guy. And she had met him when she was a minor, and that he kept doing this to her. So we'll see about this info about what she did, and then look at the guys that she caught and where they're all located, because you may be surprised.
An Iowa State student is being credited for exposing an online neo-Nazi child pornography ring.
Police say her tip spurred an international investigation that spanned 4 years. I talked with the ISU police officer who unraveled this entire case. It's a wild story. We want to warn you the details are disturbing and not suitable for children in the room.
I've been in awe of her since the beginning. She was being blackmailed and had the strength and bravery to come forward and say this is not okay.
Iowa State University police officer Cami Feld says a tip from an Iowa State student in 2020 spurred a 4-year investigation revealing a shocking and sinister online cult that preyed on children. The ISU student told police she was being blackmailed by a man she met on a social media app when she was a minor.
She shared with us certain details. We were able to unravel a bigger story.
The bigger story turned into the arrests of 4 men worldwide. The Department of Justice charged 23-year-old Colin Walker of New Jersey, 24-year-old Caleb Merritt of Texas, 28-year-old Rowan Rain of France, and 41-year-old Clint Borge of Hawaii. An unsealed federal indictment says the men were part of an online group that followed neo-Nazism and pedophilia as its core principles. Police told us the cult-like group called themselves the CVLT. Members are accused of enticing and coercing children to produce sadistic child pornography. The horrifying details revealed in the indictment say children were groomed and degraded to perform dehumanizing acts and then blackmailed if they tried to stop or tell their parents.
Gross, but also horrific, and it just made me that much more motivated to try and get to the bottom of this, because it became clear very early on that there was many victims.
Feld broke the case wide open when she noticed a fake address when reviewing a mountain of evidence from subpoenas. Years of combing through data, online banking records, and IP addresses led her to a suspect, Clint Borge, in Hawaii. Feld snapped this picture in August of 2021 after she flew there with federal agents to interview Borge.
I asked him about his computer training, and he initially said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, you're very tech savvy. Are you self-taught? Did you take some courses? How did you become to be so tech savvy?" And he just bowed his head and said, "Obviously not tech savvy enough. Otherwise you wouldn't be here." And that's when you know you're getting somewhere.
Feld's police work was crucial for Homeland Security investigators who identified at least 30 victims. But none of this would be possible without the Iowa State student who came forward first.
She was grateful and relieved, and I feel so fortunate to be able to have brought her to that.
All unbelievable. All 4 men are charged with engaging in a child exploitation enterprise. They face a minimum of 20 years in prison. Feld believes there's more people out there doing this, and she says, Jody, her work is not done.
Very diligent police work by that department and great reporting out of you, Laura. Thank you for telling that story.
So the 4 CVLT members that were arrested they got federal charges out of DC. So in the group itself, it talked about that they were charged as a child exploitation enterprise and how they coerced minors. And as you heard, they had 30 victims that they so far found that they had. So you've got Colin James Thomas Walker, 23, of Bridgeton, New Jersey. Clinton Georgian Lopa Nohukia Borg, 41, of Paho, Hawaii. And they were arrested that morning of the from the grand jury indictment that they received. And then they were charged with 1 count of engaging a child in exploitation enterprise. And they're expected to make an initial hearing in New Jersey and Hawaii. So the people they point out that they already have indicted are the Rohan Sandeep Rain, 28, of Antibes, France. And then Caleb Christopher Merritt, 24, of Spring, Texas. The man who traveled to pick up that 12-year-old and had that place in the woods and then took her and was found later with her. So they were already in there for charges, and the indictment they got for them also returned on January 17th. Rain and Walker were 1 count of endangering a child exploitation enterprise. Now, also that Caleb Merritt from Texas, he did assault another child in 2019 from a prior thing from the investigation of him. And they talk about the members of the international enterprise engaged in online child exploitation offenses and trafficking CSAM. Rain, Walker, and Merritt acted as leaders and administrators in the CVLT enterprise, hosting and running CVLT online services and controlling membership of the group. So there is membership of the group that they have. And they talk about that the members work collectively to entice and coerce the kids to produce CSAM on the platform that CVLT ran. And then they talked about eventually they would have various means of degradation, including exposing the victims to extreme and violent content. CVLT specifically targeted vulnerable victims, including ones suffering from mental health challenges or a history of sexual abuse. So if they told them they had been sexually abused before, then they also targeted them. And they were probably on a group, is why they ended up doing that. So the victims were encouraged to engage increasingly in dehumanizing acts, including cutting and eating their own hair, drinking their urine, punching themselves, calling themselves racial slurs, and using razor blades to carve CVLT members' names into their skin. The CVLT members coerced, escalated, and pressuring victims to kill themselves on a video live stream. Then they talk if they hesitated, then they would talk about the actions that they would have against them, as we talked before. They said that Rain, previously who was charged several child exploitation and related offenses in France, and had been in French custody since 2022. And then talked about Merritt is currently in Virginia state custody, serving a 50-year sentence for child sex abuse crimes he committed in 2020 and 2021. So that would be latest of that girl. And then you see that the information of what officers and stuff participated in that were Homeland Security, Los Angeles Police Department. So you've got kids from California. San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office participated, Henry County Sheriff's Office, Iowa State University because of the girl, and then the National French Police, United Kingdom, New Zealand, Internal Affairs, and Europol. So their victims were in different countries as well. So again, this is about the Iowa girl and how she reached out to police by November of 2020. If she would have not spoken up and had the bravery to do so, it would have just gone on. And all of these victims wouldn't be relieved of these people who were causing all of this, all of these issues. And 4 suspects were indicted for grooming, coercing, and minors to produce the sexual abuse. And there's, there's all of their ages. So one of the things that they brought up was about a San Fernando Valley man in California. And actually his indictment just came down. So it was just released in federal court papers. The federal charges for people with CSAM and child exploitation are harder to get. They're not easy to go find out what federal charges have been done. You usually don't see them unless they publicly go ahead and release it first, which a lot of times they don't because they don't want the network busted. And then you get, or by that point, if they don't release the charges, they definitely release the indictment. So this is a 28-year-old. And he was in April of 2022. He was scheduled for Los Angeles. He was part of the 764. He did have people who he had them engaging in self-harm as part of participating in the network. And he had violent extremists who engaged in criminal conduct, particularly targeting the children for the exploitation online. And he allegedly involved with an online group that blackmailed the underage girls into creating the pornography and video depictions of themselves engaging in degrading, sadistic sexual acts, torture sessions, and carving their abusers' initials or names on their bodies. They also encouraged the female minors to commit suicide. As one example, the criminal complaint details in March of 2020 photos in which an individual had cut defendant's name Henry into their right forearm. The complaint also outlines 4 videos that allegedly depict Ali directly teen girls to engage in specific acts. And in February and March of 2025, the complaint also alleged that he participated in a new server created as a grooming pool targeting underage girls, which included 2 minor students in public school district in Colorado. So now this is a video that's going to talk about 764. It's a video that came out of Chicago. It talks about the arrest in Michigan and Kentucky. And please, if you like this content and the work that's being done, and I hope you share this with people you know, because it's extremely important to protect your kids and children you know, please hit that like button and subscribe. Not monetized. I just do this to help educate people and protect our kids. So let's watch this one.
Yeah, Judy, the FBI says the online group is called 764 and exists to methodically coerce and extort minors to produce heinous materials, live streaming acts of self-harm, animal cruelty, sexually explicit acts, even suicide. And they tell the I-Team the group's activity has increased sharply. 764 operates not only in the United States, but all over the world, using threats, blackmail, and sadistic manipulation to force children to perform depraved acts of violence against themselves and others.
764 is a violent online network of individuals who use criminal actions for their goal of destroying society, creating chaos, and exploiting their victims.
Assistant Special Agent in charge of the Chicago FBI field office, Ryan Maxwell, says members of the organization befriend children online through social media and multiplayer gaming platforms. Then they strike.
Relationships which might appear to be innocuous at first, and then progressing to a place where they're asking for individuals to comply with their demands, production of photos, and beginning a cycle of control and fear.
The more debased and violent the image or video a member is able to coerce a child to produce, the higher they're standing in the 764.
Their typical victims are between the ages of 9 and 17 years old.
Maxwell says because of its connections to racial and ethnically motivated ideologies, the FBI is utilizing counterterrorism agents to thwart members in the worldwide network.
I think it shows how serious that we're taking this, and that we're dedicating resources, and that we want to stop the proliferation of this group. We want to infiltrate. We want to take them down at some point.
The agency recently securing convictions against 764 members in Michigan and Kentucky.
Both individuals received heavy prison sentences, and we are using a number of federal crimes to charge these perpetrators.
And while the FBI was unable to delve into any specific Chicago area cases, Maxwell says it's vital to have conversations about who your children are talking to online.
Kids need to have cyber awareness. They need to know that when they are on these sites and platforms, that individuals may be seeking to take advantage of them and to exploit them.
The FBI saying those conversations between parents and children are just vitally important, and they're asking the public to report any instances of abuse like this.
Well, those details are frightening, but you're right. The more that we know, then the more the parents can be aware of what may be going on.
Absolutely. Just have conversations with your kids. Know who they're talking to online, because you don't want it to be somebody like that.
Constant vigilance on
Absolutely.
that stuff. All right, Mark, with the I-Team, thank you very much for that.
Judy, the FBI.
This is the Michigan arrest of a member. You'll be interested to see him. His name is Richard Anthony Densmore. He's 47. He's part of the 764 group. He was recently arrested. And you'll find out more about him. He was a former military person. He got taken out of the military for unknown reasons. And he was with horrific stuff in this group. And let's watch this, and then I'll show you more details of him.
A growing threat to children all over the world. Mark Totten, U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Michigan, along with other leaders, spoke about the growing threat of 764.
764 is an online network of individuals who seek to normalize and to weaponize the possession, production, and distribution of child sexual abuse material and other types of graphic and violent material.
This comes after the sentencing of one of the network's members, Richard Anthony Densmore, age 47, of Calva, Michigan.
His actions targeted children and exploited minor victims. He forced children to cut themselves and to produce graphic material. And now he is being held accountable for his crimes.
He was sentenced to 30 years in federal prison for sexual exploitation of a child, the statutory maximum sentence for this crime.
It is difficult to even comprehend such shocking and inhumane violence targeted at innocent and vulnerable children, but we cannot look away.
Densmore, along with the network, extorted young victims into recording or live streaming acts of self-harm, often sharing this material amongst themselves.
Many members of this network have an end goal of forcing their victims to commit suicide on live stream for the network's entertainment or for the perpetrator's own sense of fame within the 764 network.
The FBI is now working to be proactive, preventing this from happening in the future.
While we will always fight to hold offenders like Mr. Densmore accountable, what we really, really want to do is to prevent these crimes from happening in the first place.
We want to educate and tell the public more about sextortion so that we can prevent this from happening to our children.
Rebecca Marriott, FBI Assistant Special Agent in charge, encourages people to communicate with their children about who they're in contact with online.
Sextortion can occur within minutes of that first contact, or it can also be prolonged over weeks, months, or even years.
I'm Andy Dominiani. Thanks for watching. If you like this video,
A growing
So here's Richard Densmore. As you heard, he's got 30 years. His role in 764 online network coerced children into recording themselves. The defendant orchestrated a community to target children through online gaming sites and used extortion and blackmail to force his minor victims to record themselves committing acts of self-harm and violence. If you prey on children online, you can't hide beyond this point. That was Director Ray. This case represents a new depraved threat against our kids, our communities, violent online extremists who manipulate their minor victims to commit self-harm and create sexually explicit images. So he was a veteran, said he suffered from depression and anxiety, and he lived with his grandmother. So Densmore, this network of violent extremists, seek to normalize the production, sharing, and possession of the child pornography and gore material. So he was very much into the gore to desensitize and corrupt youth towards future acts of violence. Member of the 764 gained notoriety by systematically targeting, grooming, and extorting victims through online social media platforms. That's how you move in the ranks. Members demand that the victims engage in and share the media of self-mutilation, sexual acts, harm to animals, acts of random violence, suicide, and murder, all for the purpose of accelerating chaos and disrupting society and the world order. So here's something interesting about him. His screen name was called Rabid, and he became notorious in the 764 network by creating what he called an online sewer, communities on Discord where members recruited children, including by infiltrating online gaming sites that children frequent, to cut themselves and engage in graphic sexual acts. Densmore boosted membership in his sewer by advertising live streams of children engaging in self-mutilation, what he called cut shows, and sexually explicit activity on cam. He would threaten the victims to cut themselves by telling them, "I have all of your information. I own you. You do what I say now, kitten." Densmore kept child pornography and bloody images of rabid sewer and 764 carved into victims' limbs, in some cases with razor blades and box cutters nearby. So he had a thing for box cutters. He also exploited children. And in October of 2022, Densmore unsuccessfully tried to persuade a minor girl, Jane Doe, to send him an explicit picture with "Rabid" written on her bare chest. When she expressed discomfort with that request, Densmore contacted another Discord user and paid him Nitro, which is a form of Discord currency, to help secure a sexual explicit picture of Jane Doe. Densmore's efforts were successful, and Jane Doe, at the request of the other Discord user, sent Densmore and the user a nude video of herself with "Rabid" basically carved into her chest. This man just arrested in Kentucky. His conviction just came down.
A member of a terror group pleaded guilty to several charges in federal court in Louisville. 25-year-old Jero Tinajero pleaded guilty yesterday to racketeering, conspiracy, producing and distributing child porn, cyber stalking, and conspiracy to murder, among other charges. The U.S. Department of Justice says the 764 network is an online terror group of violent extremists that use online platforms to exploit minors. In 2023, Tinajero began grooming underage victims online to get sexually explicit content from them. He then threatened the life of one of his victims and her family, posting nude photos of the victim and describing how he was going to kill her. His plea agreement also includes terrorism enhancement charges.
So he pleads guilty. I don't think they should be able to plead anything, to be honest with you. And this was the law enforcement discovers 764 member in Queens, 23-year-old guy. This guy is Angel Almeida. He sat here and he had a ton of range of aliases and very alarming social posts that he made. On September 12th of 23, there was the public warning I told you about for 764, and talking about they were deliberately targeting the minors as the victims to extort them. And this first came mentioned because of him. And the group appeared about targeting the kids 8 to 17, same range. Talked about the advisor in particular focused on young people of color, youth identifying as LGBTQ, or youth who struggle with mental health. And talked about his platform choices that he did. He used Roblox. He was also using the SoundCloud. Like I told you before, they create music and stuff, and they use Telegram. So he sat here and did the same thing, blackmail. He was trying to gain notoriety. And the information that they found about was that he really got into the Order of Nine Angles. He had the books and stuff from it. In the pictures, he had the pictures in the background and stuff with him and what he was wearing and the flags. He was into the Satanism, Wiccan. As you can see in the images and stuff that he had here, he involved people around the world, including, he talked about to the UK and Germany, talked about a German teenager accused of murdering his family. In Romania, suspect participated in doing that. And they talked about him being flagged of his social media while searching Almeida's apartment in New York. Investigators recovered a 9mm handgun, ammunition, books pertaining to the Order of Nine Angles, a flag bearing the insignia of American 09A offshoot called the Temple of Blood. He had the covenant signed in blood. He had the satanic Manibus by Satan's hand, and similar indicators have found possession of 09A influenced killers as well. He was arrested for other stuff. He had burglary in Florida. He wasn't supposed to have firearms. And they talked about the child pornography that they had on him as well. So what is the Temple of Blood that he had up there? It is a low-profile U.S.-based affiliate of the Order of Nine Angles, and they go by TOB. And it's independent from them as well. It's just another branch, another splinter, if you will. Same ideology. It originally was co-led by a husband and wife at the time who were from South Carolina. They had books and stuff that they also published, which were neo-Nazi thing. And when it was founded, I saw stuff that said about 2014, but I'm not sure if that's correct. So I kept what it said in the work I looked up that said it was unknown. So this is the United Kingdom is reaching out to the FBI about the violent network that's happening there.
The FBI has a warning for parents and guardians tonight.
They say there's been a dramatic increase in violent online networks. Ireland Viscount joins us in studio with more. Ireland.
Dennis and Valerie, violent online networks target vulnerable and underage populations not only in the United States, but around the world. The United Kingdom reaching out to the FBI with concerns.
I've been in law enforcement for just about 10 years, and this is some of the worst type of crime I've had to personally experience. Almost sounds like it's too crazy to be true.
The FBI says suspects reach out to a victim, typically a female, and start a chat with them online. This isn't isolated to one platform. It's happening across all social media networks.
They are singled out for maybe their appearance, maybe their mental health.
The suspect will begin having a relationship with the target, then start asking for pictures.
I think you're so beautiful. I'd like to see your face. Maybe then it gets to a little more suggestive. Hey, I'd like to see you in a state of undress.
From there,
it gets unfortunately worse. Put yourself in the mind of a 12-year-old who has just sent someone naked images of themselves.
Suspects will then ask the victim to share or live stream acts of self-harm, animal cruelty, or suicide. If they refuse,
our bad actors will say something along the lines of, I'll send out your images. I'll send them to everyone you know. I'll put them on every social media platform you're on. I'll call your school. I'll SWAT your school. I'll send a bomb threat to your house. These are things that a 12-year-old understands as bad.
The vast majority of victims are 9 to 16 years old, but suspects are also kids.
I've seen as young as 12 and 13 years old. What makes it difficult is that this is extortion of minors by minors, by and large. There are young adults and there are adults involved as well. Don't get confused by that.
If you are a juvenile or adult doing this to others,
we will find you and hold you accountable.
And it's important for parents and guardians to hear this warning and to look for sudden behavior or appearance changes like fresh cuts, scratches, bruises, burns, or any other wounds. Also pay attention if your family pet seems fearful of your child. Valerie.
Thank you, Ireland.
So this is 764 CVLT Arizona, Baron Martin, he's 20. Involvement in the online thing. The unsealed complaint reveals the grim overview of 764's operation and talks about the extreme violent dissemination of the youth violence and the use of cybercriminal tactics and manipulation out of social norms to exploit minors. And this is the quick short on Arizona Baron Martin.
One Tucson man has been arrested for producing child sexual abuse content and belonging to online terrorist organization 764. And we must warn you that many of the details of this story you might find disturbing. A federal complaint goes to accuse 20-year-old Barton Martin of coercing minors to cut themselves on video online chat rooms like Discord since September of 2022 before he was arrested. Wednesday, this all happened, and he faces up to 30 years now in prison if he is found guilty. Now, 764 is also known as a violent extremist organization targeting children and weaponizing child abuse content. One Tucson.
So here he is. His went by the name alias of Convict. He's charged with significant involvement in the network since 2021. He allegedly boasted about being the leader within 764 and CVLT and provided guidance on victim extortion. The criminal complaint said that the use of popular communication platforms to form and execute his plans, notably involving 2 minors in September of 2022, to engage in self-harm acts. So same thing for that. So now we get into, and these are very quick shorts that I put in here. I don't want to pass them because they're too important. And if I put everyone that I found that is now connected of school shootings connected to these groups, this would be a never-ending show, and I'm almost near the ending here. So I appreciate your patience. I appreciate that you watch it through. I will hope that you find it valuable, and we'll share it with people who have kids and ask them to watch it because it's extremely, extremely important. One of the other things that we know that in the United States we have seen a lot of increase of is on shootings. And because the COM, remember, the COM group itself, which is going to lead to another group, what this is called, of who targets. Remember, they're targeting any LGBTQ, they're targeting minorities, and that they're trying to talk and demean and all this type of stuff. And then also, create this thing that if they do violence, how, it helps the member who convinces them to do the violence and them as notoriety. So this one is about the shooter at the Covenant and Presbyterian School. The shooter, she was a transgender, and as a male, she's female, and she says she's transgender to a male. This is a quick about the Presbyterian School, just a short.
Police in Nashville releasing this chilling surveillance video showing the terrifying moments the shooter blasted their way into the small private Presbyterian school. The video also shows the armed person entering a church office and later stalking the halls with an AR-style weapon drawn. Police calling the attack on the Covenant school targeted.
We have a manifesto. We have a map drawn out of how this was all going to take place.
Lisa.
So we know that they had a manifesto, they had a map and stuff that she had. The full manifesto has not been released out to the public and stuff as well. But she was also communicating with an additional, now soon to be another shooter. And this is the Antioch high school shooter. And I'm going to show you specifics after his little short about what he did if you didn't hear about that shooting. To show you proof that he was dealing with a network splinter of the COM.
School shooter Solomon Henderson reportedly posted disturbing ramblings moments before he opened fire at Antioch High School, offering a terrifying look into his mind. The supposed 47-page manifesto included a layout of the Tennessee school, along with photos of the weapons he wanted to use, and his thoughts about why he wanted to commit a shooting. "I am a worthless subhuman, a living, breathing disgrace," the 17-year-old gunman allegedly wrote. Henderson allegedly also said that he was ashamed to be black, before going on to use anti-Semitic and anti-Muslim language.
So another branch of the COM is called No Lives Matter. And it is part of the 764 and CVLT. It's progressed from that. And it is crimes related to, obviously, still, again, the child sexual abuse material. The Antioch school shooter had tons of CSAM that they found on his computer, is one. But they also want to create real world violence and just basically create a trajectory that alarms, law enforcement and government officials about what's going on. So they've had knifings, killings, firebombings, drive-by shootings, school shootings, murder for hire plots. North America and Europe have all been connected in this splinter group called No Lives Matter. And per their own manifesto, idolizes death and seeks the purification of all mankind through endless attacks. It has released at least 2 kill guides that have been connected to violent attacks and plots in Europe and the United States. The U.S. Department of Justice classified the COM and 764 as a Tier 1 terrorist threat. So that includes all of these branches, these different groups that are tearing off, all of these different level of groups that are all considered part of this terrorist group. So the phenomenon has proven incredibly hard to combat due to the lack of a coherent structure or the ideology, because they're all different. Each group can do their own type of thing. They do have, neo-Nazi type of propaganda in the group. And over the past 4 years, COM 764 has morphed into a twisted Columbine effect and older domestic terror groups like the Atomwaffen division. So they have young extortionists and assailants egg each other on to progressively more lurid and debased acts of violence for the sake of internet notoriety and status. So they have done where they have been accused of killing homeless people. If you know, in New York, we had that in addition to the other country we were speaking of earlier, phoning in bomb threats to schools and religious institutions beyond their own borders, which we've had that in the United States. The United Kingdom and the Crown Prosecution Service recently secured a 6-year prison term for a 19-year-old Cameron Finnegan. That's who we spoke of earlier, who handle was acid, for a raft of 764 related offenses, including the CSAM and the kill manual that he had. And he authored by No Lives Matter, and basically instructions on what to do and lethal attacks and what weapons and stuff to use. So this is from School Shooters Info. You can see the image and stuff in the lower corner. So he had a manifesto in Dyer Publications that included, he had a macabre reverence for the CVLT in 764, known for spreading gore and child sexual abuse material. He was also following the neo-Nazi group MKU, also known as MKY, or the Maniacs Murder Cult, which I reviewed with you guys. You're going to see this all connect together of who he followed based on all the people that I told you about throughout this video. It also operated globally, and but the 764 in that was birthed in the United States, and it goes through about the clout gained through committing acts of violence. And the members compete for notoriety by participating in brickings, which is an act which the member throws bricks and objects through windows, arson, stabbings, murders, most which are racially motivated. And that they love the self-mutilation stuff. To date, the CVLT 764 members are serving time for child exploitation and illegal guns, and just 17 years old. That founder, Caden Head, who I went over with you, the kid who was from Texas, who started it at 15, who was sentenced to 80 years for child pornography. According to prosecutors, at the Texas office, the defendant possessed images of young children not only being sexually abused, but also choked, beaten, suffocated, and grievously injured. And they use these images to coerce others into mutilating themselves, including carving his name into their bodies and harming animals. Then it talks again about Densmore and the member of Angel Almeida, who we also went through. These were all groups that the anti guy had information and stuff on. These are posts that he had from No Lives Matter. You can see the time of day that he posted that. He titled in a section of his manifesto of No Lives Matter, which was filled with statements of self-loathing, basically, that he was, as they said in the video, he was ashamed to be black. I'm not going to read the, words he used, but he feels like shit. And for anyone who wants to use calling me a coon or sellout, whitewash, Uncle Tom, ruckus, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not going to read his crappy shit. It talks about on 40 days before the Antioch shooting, he posted No Lives Matter meme in his diary at 9:29 a.m. That's on the upper left-hand corner of his post. He emailed an 800-page manifesto to coworkers, this UCLA lecturer that he acknowledged, who had a standoff with the police. And he describes himself as an incel, which is part of the involuntary celibate subculture. So in midway through the manifesto, Henderson lists names of school shooters and domestic terrorists that he admired, basically. Oklahoma City bombing, the New Zealand Musk. And he mentioned, I feel like God, I can decide who lives and dies. On November 8th of 2024, Henderson wrote in his diary, I want to do a stabbing like Tobes, but a huge risk of being caught and receiving a low high score. In the culture of mass shooters, receiving a low high score means having a low body count. And why risk death or imprisonment for a low high score? Yet despite this concern, he went on to laud Usano's actions. He was talking about the guy and, putting this knife, having a knife in extended video, and what he called chud cord, and about licking the blood off. And the person saying, I don't want to get HIV or some shit. These people it's just messed up. Henderson also brought up the guy about soft targets like journalists, anti-fascists, and judges before moving into bigger accelerations, should practice basically his soft target. And it's done. The purpose it's done is showing others how attacks can be conducted. So then he posts on here about do not post threats, do not post homicidal or suicidal thoughts, do not mention targets, minorities, or allude to any violent crime publicly. Within the next few months, some of you who went very careful may get visits. It will happen. Yes, even threats on Telegram, Discord. The feds can now request data easier due to sexual abuse in Korea or 764 whatever. Okay, so Korea is a whole nother one. I posted about it when it got busted in my community post, but I will do a video about the Korea that got busted that's linked. We had a person busted in Indiana for it. It's not as detailed as this by any means. These are pictures and posts that the killer kid shooter posted. Again, he's just posting of people that he idolized. On December 19th at 6:46 p.m., Henderson posted in his diary, "My sister has Discord. It's over. I have to commit the attack. She's 100% going to be groomed." This post likely referenced his knowledge of the sextortion chats or comms surrounding 764 that are prolific on Discord. The groups are known for the luring of young girls into their servers from Roblox, Snapchat, Instagram, where they groom them to create pornographic content. And this was the picture post that was done. This was talked, he mentioned the other MKU person that I showed you before. He pointed out all of those people that we went through who have been busted now. He has, and they're linked to Order of Nine Angels, are all in stuff that he followed and all in stuff that he posted as well. So this is his final remarks in his manifesto read, "I take great pride in the fact that the people before and after me will commit similar acts, not only in the USA, but all over the world. I hope you all enjoy the broadcast." He then proceeds to live stream his school shooting on Kick. So this info is just about FBI information, talking about the apps and warning signs indicating, if you're seeing self-harm or anything like that with the kids. This is the list. If there's a sudden behavior change, becoming withdrawn, moody, irritable, sudden changes in appearance, especially neglect of appearance, changes in eating or sleeping, dropping out of activities, becoming more isolated and withdrawn, a new online friend or network, prospective victims seem infatuated with or scared of, receipt of anonymous gifts such as items delivered to your home, currency gaming, currency or other virtual items, scars often in patterns, fresh cuts, scratches, bruises, bite marks, burns, or other wounds, carving such as words or symbols on the skin, wearing long sleeves or pants in hot weather, writing in blood or what appears to be blood, threatening to commit suicide or openly talking about a death, not being wanted or needed or not being around, idolization of mass shooting or mass casualty events, family pets or other animals being harmed or dying under suspicious circumstances, family pets uncharacteristically avoid or are fearful of you or your child, law enforcement being called to the home under false pretenses, knowing a swatting or doxing by an unknown person. This is recommendations with mental health and what you could do. There's links and stuff on stuff for the FBI. I will try to get all of these links inside as I can. I just have so much content that I only have so many words I can use in there, but I can post. If there's something specific you're looking for, please make a comment in the video of something you would like, a phone number, a website, anything like that from it. Talks about if you see that there's issues, talk to a pediatrician or healthcare provider, get mental health resources. If there's immediate threat, dial 911. For Internet Crime Complaint Center, obviously you can go to National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. This is the Take It Down specific link. You can see that if the child has something posted and it's been listed somewhere, you can contact that and they work with you to try to get it taken down, that it's not just you asking. Internet Crime Reports and Complaint Center, www.ic3.gov with the FBI, or 1-800-CALL-FBI. National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. If you know there's CSAM, if you know somebody has CSAM, you want to report them anonymously, go to cybertipline.org. You can do that and share the links and stuff like that with them. Do not share any CSAM images. You can also call 1-800-THE-LOST, and they'll talk to you through it as well if you don't want to do it online, or they can even talk you through doing the online. So reporting the crimes can help law enforcement identify the malicious people who are doing this and prevent further stuff. This is numbers for Child Help Abuse Hotline in the U.S. Is right here. If you're in the UK, it's listed here as well. So you've got that number. And then I have also in Australia. So if you need to look at these longer, just pause the video and you can find these. Here's the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Again, the tip line, the .org. They also have an international Century for Missing and Exploited Children. There's also the RAIN hotline. That's for victims that you can call. And these are the global links for the child helplines. These are the different links that are available in the different countries in Europe. And some of them may be the same depending on, but some of them are different. Again, if you need to pause this longer for you to be able to see your country and where to promote it or contact, I'm sorry. But we wanted to promote that to you. Again, continuing different websites and stuff like that for you to have. These are if you're in Latin America or the Caribbean. Again, different phone numbers and different websites for you to see and to have. The Internet Watch Foundation, that is based out of the UK. This has the numbers where you can anonymously report. I follow this. I share this on my Twitter account all the time about work that the Internet Watch Foundation, along with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, does. But this is in the UK, and they do handle national reports. And again, if you are here in the US, you can anonymously tip or give a tip. If you know that a child has had this happen, or you need to report something, or you know that somebody is sharing CSAM out there, inappropriate stuff, you can go to cybertipline.org to report it electronically. You can leave the URL, what their usernames are, what their links are. You want to keep all that detailed information, and 1-800-THE-LOST. Again, this is for if there's CSAM, child molestation, things that are put up on different sites, anything like that that you need taken down that they can help with. So first, I want to thank everybody. If I can pop myself back up here, I don't know if that I can. I want to thank everybody for being here, sticking with me. I know that that was a very long show, but there was just no way to try to do this all and then lose the progression of me sharing everything with you. I hope if you didn't catch the beginning, you go back to the beginning and watch it. I hope you found it valuable. If you do, please let me know that. Please hit that like button. Please hit subscribe, not monetized. I do this to try to help people and help our kids. And this is really bad that the all of these agencies are worried about it, that they've issued 2 massive warnings and stuff about it. And if any advice I can give, if you are talking to a child about something that happens, a lot of times you go, okay, don't go to this site. Don't do this. Don't do that. And then if they go do that and something happens, then they don't know what to do. So when you think about talking to your kid, you need to think about saying, okay, what if somebody sends, and forgive me for wording it, but this is the only way to do it, is what if your kid gets a dick pic? What are they supposed to do? And you need to talk to them about that. What if they have somebody who threatens them? What if they have somebody who says something, sexually to them? Talk to them about what to do, how to handle it, and what to expect. Only to friend kids and stuff that they know on there. And for God's sakes, kids don't need damn phones when they're 5 years old getting in damn kindergarten. Be smart about it. Look at flip phones. They need to call you because they're coming home from school. Then just sit here and let them sit here and call you from a freaking flip phone. They don't need a smartphone right now. As you saw in one of those videos, the lady talked about, she had a service to watch that girl's phone, and yet she was still a victim of it, because that's not going to do your job of watching it and looking what's happening. And it's easy for them to hide it. Their other friends are doing it. They're going to show them how to hide it from you. And you have to be ready to not sit here and know that when they do come and tell you, you have to be okay to, and even let them know now that if you come to me and you win there, I'm not going to get mad. But if something happens, or you're scared, or somebody does something or says something that makes you feel uncomfortable or bothers you, I want you to come and talk to me about it. I want you to feel comfortable to say something. And if they do come, and if you're somebody who's listening and you're a kid, go tell your parent. And I guarantee you, whoever you speak to, your parent, your grandparent, whomever, you need to go and let them know. And if you start out your conversation with, look, I'm scared and this is happening. And as soon as you tell that family member that you're scared about something that's happening, their ears are going to be open and they're going to listen to you. I can't promise they may not get a little bit upset, but you need to go and tell them so nothing else can happen. Again, I know this sounds like a stretch of what can go on, and is a oh my God, is this conspiracy theory type of stuff? And it isn't. None of these are. None of those groups are. The gaming isn't. So I wanted to share all those details. I appreciate you guys being here. I know it was a long show. I hope it's worthwhile. And if you found it worthwhile, please share it. Please let some other family members and people and stuff like that to share it, and let them watch it. And hopefully it will encourage them to go talk to their kids and realize that they have no idea that when their kid is sitting in the room with a cell phone, they're not by themselves. The whole world is in your kid's room with them when they have a cell phone. There is no borders. Any man located anywhere in the world, or any predator for that matter, can get to your child, girl or boy. And we need to also protect that kids don't go and get to see this type of CSAM and think that that's normal behavior and that's supposed to be what happens. So again, I appreciate all of you. I will have more updates soon about the other side and other things going on. Please watch community pages for posts that I do. Some of those guys that were arrested, I did promote as people who were arrested as pedophiles. We just didn't know at the time that it was connected to 764. So just the stuff that they were doing. So I appreciate all of you. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. And thank you again for helping make sure that justice is served daily. Thank you, everybody.